you have the politicians, then you have, you know, their lackeys, the lobbyists, and then you have the you know, the government business entities or even corporations who say, you know what, instead of actually going out there and competing in the marketplace, I'll just use a lobbyist to get my stuff stuck in there. And that's actually, you know, the part that's probably the most concerning, is because what you see is literally just a revolving door, you know, politician to lobby to corporate, back, boom, boom, boom. And so there's really no incentive for anybody to say, you know what, who wants to stop the self-licking ice cream cone, right? So it just keeps on going.
But we can see that it's degenerating now. You know, yourself, an Army officer, you know, talking to military people. Overall, are you seeing them starting to have some concern and recognize this system we're entering?
Very much so, and that's those, you know, those are some of the things I think that, you know, I guess, you know, as an entrepreneur, I'm a, you know, an eternal optimist, is that when I talk to them, they recognize these things because, you know, the vast majority of them are good people. And, you know, I mean, every organization will, you know, will have its psychopaths that, you know, enter the fold. But by and large, these are honorable people. They may not have been taught to recognize, or they've sort of been, it's been groomed out that you don't really look too far outside your lane. But I mean, you know, they have a sense of what's right and wrong. And on top of that, everybody, you know, in their heart of hearts, when they're sitting in, you know, by themselves in the quiet, they know when something's wrong. And so when I talk to them, the emails that I've been receiving from friends who read the article, they said, you know what, you're dead on. And I said, this is very concerning. And I've gotten a ton from law enforcement. These are guys that, you know, we're talking 27-year law enforcement veterans that are saying, this is very, very concerning. And because they remember what it was like. Now, there may be probably, there's a significant amount of positive bias in there, because they probably wouldn't write me to say that I was completely wet. But at the same time, I really haven't gotten anybody sending me an email that said, you know what, you're completely off base, blah, 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 blah. Everybody has said, you know what, these are very, very disturbing trends, because that is just not what the principles of America are based on.
Exactly. Let me raise this point. They wouldn't allow DU to be used in warfare, according to the former head of the DU program, Dr. Doug Rocky, and others I've talked to, and I've seen the documents, until 1991, and suddenly they said, well, it's okay to use it a little. And then now they don't even act like there's really, any concerns about its widespread use. Previously, they were concerned, government was concerned about radiation from reactors that had melted down. Now the EPA just raises the level of what they say is safe radiation when Fukushima radiation blows across the Pacific. I mean, I've seen articles in the Associated Press just yesterday where all over the U.S. they're developing airborne Ebola, mousepox, flu that kills over 90% of those that come in contact with it. And it's not even being kept in secure facilities, much less why is it being manufactured. And there's almost like a reckless craziness going on. Like a few years ago in China, they executed a bunch of executives because they were putting melamine in powdered milk because it would fool the tester for the protein level, and it killed people. Well, it killed some people here and made them sick, and I can pull the article up where the EPA just came out and said, or the FDA in that case, well, more melamine is just okay for you now. So, I mean, you talked about going crazy. It's like there's not even a self-preservation mode within the elite. They just think a big army is going to save them from an angry public. What about an army saving us from them? I mean, all that, it just seems that there is a real Caligula type craziness now entering into the behavior of the ruling class.
And it's not coordinated. I don't think it is. I don't get a sense that it's coordinated, because it just seems so arbitrary and random. I mean, it's, I think what you're saying too is exactly, it's crazed. And so what you're seeing is these different things that are popping everywhere. And that's just, I mean, that's, way more about that than I do, Alex. The only thing I wanted, the big part of my article that I wanted to comment on was this slow but inexorable change and slide that we have seen, where the law enforcement and the militarization has just become, so much more prevalent in the American experience, and nobody's asking the questions why. That was really the big point that I wanted to make with my article.
Well, they tell us it's for Al-Qaeda, but then you get the Homeland Security documents and MIAC reports that police and others have sent us, and it's all about keeping the American people in line. There's not even a pretense that it's for jihadis or somebody.
I think it's just I mean, it's just bizarre, you know. I mean, you see small towns in out in the Midwest, and they've got 2 police cars, but they've got tons of SWAT gear in the trunks of their vehicles. I mean, what happened to the days of Barney Fife with his one magic bullet in his pocket, you know?
Meanwhile, I saw a number just a few days ago where there's more deaths every year on just the Texas Mexico border than there is in Afghanistan on all sides. But then, because that's something the system doesn't want to discuss, that's not even a news item. So like a real war is not a big deal, because that's something that the system doesn't want to discuss. But then meanwhile, you've got cops, like you said, in the middle of nowhere, shaking in fear. I've seen these videos out of Tennessee and Florida where families drive up at federally run checkpoints, and the state police are out in Tennessee with their drill sergeant hats, shaking like the next car is going to have the devil fly out of it or something. I mean, like, there's just terrorists everywhere. It'd be like if I ran out in the field crazed and thought that I was going to find a magic leprechaun over a hill. I mean, it's not connected to reality.
That's the part that I think is just, the whole, you always talk about, well, are we really arraying resources against realistic threats?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, no.
Where can we read more of your reports, and where can we find out more about what you're writing about?
So I wrote, it's funny, I wrote another article a couple of weeks ago called Fascism for Dummies. And it was posted on a website called The Dollar Vigilante, that's run by a Canadian named Jeff Berwick, who lives in Acapulco. And that article really was sort of is the intro to this article. And the word fascism gets thrown around a lot, and it gets thrown around, frankly, many times in an incorrect manner. And the point that I wanted to make was, really, there's some core things about fascism that if you recognize that, you can step away from all the rhetoric, you can step away from all the screaming, and you can say, well, that's the way fascism works. And and fascism basically is sort of an unprincipled method of government, meaning it's governed by no principles. It's really only exists for self-preservation, and you'll typically see that it involves a very, very, I guess, perverse relationship with the market, meaning that they have, preferred vendors and providers that they then will subsidize. And sometimes they'll claim that they're pro-market, and yes, we're all about the market. And then other times they'll say, no, we need to put the kibosh on that because of the good. And it's completely arbitrary. It's whatever is in their own self-interest. It has nothing to do with being governed by principles that really transcend them. So the name of it, as I said, the article is called Fascism for Dummies. It's a quick little 3-page primer. And the idea was, read it, and, maybe they'll put a little context into, all these articles you read about fascism. So that was another article I wrote, and I'm in the process of writing some more articles that I'm probably going to submit out either through the Dollar Vigilante or Casey Research.
Well, very exciting, Pete Kofod. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And anytime you want to send something over to INFOWARS.com, we'd certainly like to post it as well, because you've certainly done a great job in these articles that I've read, really breaking down some of the nuances of this. But simply put, fascism, from my research, is pretty much what you always get. The communist, the socialist, they're just putting names on it. But if you want to use a modern term, fascism is more rule by gangs, special interest, combines, cartels. That's basically what we've got here is a pure form of fascism that we're segueing into, whereas communism kind of kicks off one way, but pretty much always devolves into fascism, special interest. There's no doubt we've got a planned economy now that is consciously moving towards that. But at the same time, it's so badly coordinated, and the elites are so undisciplined that it's going to be wild. Undoubtedly,
it's going to be a mess.
Oh yeah, we're about to see insanity. And if they think a bunch of guns in black uniforms are going to somehow, and a bunch of drones are going to fix their own people not coming into work and stealing everything, I mean, I hope we just collapse like a third world country. I mean, I hope that we got the country back and go back to the republic. But it'd be better to just collapse into a banana republic than to become this big evil fortress empire Borg system that I think the establishment thinks they're going to have.
There's nothing wrong with an edifice collapsing, provided you're not standing right next to it.
Exactly. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us.
No, you bet, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great guy. He sat there for about 20 minutes because I was late getting here before he went to the interview, but that's a good way to end InfoWars Nightly News. That's it for this edition of the broadcast. I hope that all of you out there realize that at this critical juncture, your voice is more important and powerful than ever. We're not going to defeat this tyranny through osmosis. That, well, Alex Jones is out there, and Ron Paul's out there, and Rand Paul's out there, and G. Edward Griffin's out there. Sure, we're out there and we're prominent voices, but without you telling your friends and family about what's happening, without you pointing them at the radio show and the TV show, without you supporting constitutionalists who are at the tip of the spear in the face of this global takeover, we don't have a shot. We don't even have a prayer, a hope. You do see a big awakening happening in the face of this bizarro tyranny. I mean, it is classical, like he said. A lot of people use the word fascism. This really is fascism. And I mean, the nastiest, most disgusting form of it I've ever seen. And here's the thing. This fascism is just now learning to walk, but it's growing quick. It's going to be full grown very, very soon. It's kind of like the 1979 movie Alien, where it busts out of the guy and 12 hours later is man-size eating people. And they're like, my God, how did it get so big so quick? That's the thing about the life cycle of a scientific tyranny like this, is that it took a long time to get implanted inside the republic and grow as that embryonic level. Now it's basically busting out of us, here on the table and looking around, and people are going, wow, Alex Jones was right. There is something growing in there. Oh, but it's kind of little. Look, it just ran off. Let's get some little cattle prods and go deal with it. No. It's already gone around the back hatch, folks, and is 8 feet tall and got teeth that long, okay? All right? We tried to stop it when it was in the guts. Everybody's like, oh, there's nothing going on in there. Never mind this tyranny, this national security state that attached itself to our face. And now that's kind of fallen off and laying there. And then now the country's got the depression going, and they're passing the NDAA, and people can see the little alien popping out. Yeah, I think this transmission's gone full circle. Lord willing, if I'm not in some FEMA camp by tomorrow, I'll see you back tomorrow here at 7 p.m. Central for InfoWars Nightly News. Great job to the crew. Oh, yeah, they're showing on screen there. You can get a 15-day free trial, 100% access to 9 years of material at PrisonPlanet.tv, and support the front lines of the InfoWars. So again, it's an armory of resistance. Get in there and get the tools we need to fight the psychos that have taken over our society. That's InfoWars Nightly News.